Hi, welcome back everyone. Welcome back to Beats Hobble. How long has it been? It's been a little bit. It's been about this long. I actually stopped cutting my hair after I finished making the videos last time, and by this point it's gotten about this long. So it's been about this long since I started the videos again. But no, seriously, it's been about a year and a half, and I wanted to continue. I really did, but sort of life circumstances took me out of this teaching role. I didn't have the time nor the energy to be doing these videos consistently. But I am happy to say that I think I'm back. I think I'm back doing this like semi-weekly, semi-consistently. Um, I really do want to fulfill my original purpose, which is to teach you Model A. You're going to learn Model A. And if you already know Model A, you'll get a review. You'll get the best review, the best Socionics content on YouTube. I'm not going to make that bold claim, but really it's kind of sparse out there. Um, so yeah, just, excuse the video quality if it's a little sloppy. I've decided for my own sake to take these videos a little bit less seriously than I did before. A little bit more jokes, a little bit more anecdotes, a little bit maybe less accurate information. If you think that I've been missing facts, or like if you detect that something was wrong, your alarm bells go off watching this video or others, you can just head on down in the comments and be like, well, Ethan, I think you got this fact wrong. And I may find it within the kindness of my heart to not ban you from the channel. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. But really, I would take it in stride. I'm not looking to be totally accurate here. I want it to kind of just be like I'm telling a story, or I'm giving some interesting information to this audience. I'm not so much of a I don't want to be so much of a lecturer anymore. I don't want to be so serious about writing the scripts and following through and redoing takes if they're not exactly how I wanted them, which is kind of what I did last time. So I think we're just going to get right into it, that short announcement aside. So leaving off, where did we leave off? We left off on information metabolism. And I've decided not to do information metabolism. I've decided to make the videos that I already had on information metabolism unlisted. So if you still have them somewhere, you can watch them, but I plan on redoing that series actually once we've gone over a lot of the Model A content. Because my views on information metabolism have changed just a little bit in this year and a half, and I want to share those changes in a little bit more of a detailed way. So I thought it would be okay if we started with information elements, and I am mostly just going to be illustrating information metabolism through the elements and the functions anyway, so you won't be missing out on too much. That's what I have to say. But so yeah, what are the information elements? If you don't know, this is your first introduction to information elements. So to give you just a little bit of history, we have to start with Jung. We have to start with Jung in Switzerland in his psychologist's office. We got to start with the functions. So the functions were basically Jung's attempt to quantify, or qualify rather, the differentiation of the psyche in his patients. In other words, he wanted to know why certain patients were having certain problems and other patients weren't. Like, he wanted to know what stable personality traits they had over time, and since there wasn't really a model like that back then, he sort of went the psychoanalytic route and developed them into sort of a theory of unconscious motivation through the functions, that people sort of individuate through the functions, and it helps differentiate your mind to process different types of information. And different types of people process totally different types of information. That was where Jung started from, and obviously we don't do it like that anymore. So what happened? Well, Auschra Augusta, the creator of Socionics, that you should remember that from the history video. Now, if you don't remember that, just go back and look. I'll put a link in the comments. In the description. But yeah, Auschra Augusta came along and combined the idea of Jung's functions with Antoni Kopinski's information metabolism, the theory that I'm going to be reviewing later on. to make the information elements, an idea of information processing that's loosely based on Young's functions. At this point, at least, it's loosely based. So what actually are the elements? How do we define them? Well, the best way that I kind of like to describe the elements is that they are like modalities of the mind. And if you're not really sure what a modality is, just think about your senses. Your hearing. Like, let's take hearing, for example. You can hear things, you can hear all sorts of things. Sometimes your hearing is muffled. That happens with the information elements as well, as a rough analogy. Sometimes you hear really good things. Sometimes you hear music, things that you want to move towards. You want to listen to more music. You want to find out which types of music are your favorite. And then there are bad sounds, like screeching and the construction that's going on outside of my house, and just generally other noises that we would sort of seek to avoid. And it's kind of like that with all of the senses, if you think about it. Like, there are nice sights, there are bad sights, there are good tastes, there are bad tastes, there are nice textures, there are cringy textures that make you make your spine crawl. Maybe just me, I don't know. But yeah, the information elements are basically like that. They are like modalities in your psyche. They are responsible for processing each different type of information in the theory of socionics. And they also, one thing that I should also add is that they have distinct agendas. We mostly are able to figure out what the agendas are by what the good and bad stimulation looks like. So like if we get good or bad input, like the input that the elements would seek to move towards is like part of their agenda. It is their agenda to move towards that pleasant kind of information. And the elements, like I said, are based off of information. But where does that information come from? Well, if I had reviewed information metabolism, it would be a little bit more clear. But that information is based off of fragments of our conscious experience, different parts and pieces of the way that we experience the world. And as we'll see in this series, we'll be dividing up our conscious experience into 4 different domains that will have 2 elements each within them that have directly opposing agendas. So within the 4 domains, we have different agendas. We have all 8 agendas. And you can see those here on the right. The elements are SE. These are just abbreviations. I'll be going over in more detail what the abbreviations mean and what their definitions are, etc., etc. But just for now, the 8 main psychological agendas processed with information are SE, which is responsible for the agenda of force. It wants to impact things, it wants to force things. Then there's SI, which is sort of the opposite of that. It craves homeostasis, moving back to a stable point. Then there's NE, which is discovery, moving outward in the conceptual space. And NI, which is significance, shrinking down, coming to stable themes and cores in the conceptual space. There's TE, which is efficiency, optimizing processes, working with facts and accuracy. There's TI, which is order, making sure that things are structured, things are built and ordered properly, arranged properly. There's FE, which is focused on our expression and our communication as human beings or as just beings in general. And then there's FI, which is focused on our sentiment and how attached we are to certain things, our relationships to things, our emotional relationships to them. So if this is your first time and you're just going over these elements, don't worry. They will all be explained in a heap of detail. But for now, this is just the overview. These are the 8 processes that we are all motivated by. And yeah, like it says here, everyone juggles the 8 agendas. Everyone has all of the 8 agendas. But somehow, some people end up different than other people. Some people have different personalities. Some people have different likes and dislikes. Some people have different passions and different dreams and aspirations. And the reason for that is that even though we have the 8 agendas, they all have different priorities within our mind. And if you guessed it by now, That's what Model A is all about. The organization of these 8 priorities into stable arrangements. Those arrangements are what we call types. There are 16 of them, and they all feature different exact arrangements of these agendas into different positions. But that is way down the line. Just giving you the review for later. That's what the elements do and what they are for. So yeah, just in summary, the elements are agendas that are based on different fragments of our conscious experience. A lot of people in the socionics community tend to think that the elements are more like behaviors, that the elements are more like traits or like just basic psychological processes that can be diagnosed very quickly. And I happen to disagree with that. I happen to think that all of the elements are indeed motivated by something specific. So those of you who are more familiar, who are more invested in the socionics community, may see something like this when other people are typing individuals. They'll say something like, oh, well, he's any base because he constantly talks about discovering new things, or he constantly talks about new possibilities. He constantly talks about this. He constantly does this thing. He does that thing. And while behaviors are indicative of the elements, they are not the same thing as the elements. The elements cause behavior. It's not the other way around. People act on their motivations to produce the behavior that we see in other individuals. But yeah, that's what we're going to work with going forward. In the next video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the information dichotomies, looking at ways that we can split up our conscious experience, and then we'll be looking at the domains, how we can group those conscious experiences together to form categories, and then we'll be looking at the agendas. What do they mean? How are they structured? How are they ordered? What do we even mean by agenda? Then we'll be defining the elements and looking at the dynamics between different elements. But hopefully you stuck with me through that. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. And yes, I will be returning for new videos. So I will see you in the future.